If I had to ask you the question, and the question's really simple, what does it mean to be awake? I'm pretty sure you'd have some pretty straightforward answers. It means that you are alert, that you can see things, that you are aware of all your surroundings, that you are aware of this conversation. I mean, that's what it means to be awake. It's the opposite of being asleep. It's just pretty straightforward, right? But there could be something deeper under it. It could be that it's a metaphor. It could be something there's more going on inside it. And so I've just done a little bit of research on this, and I've been thinking about what it means to really be awake. In fact, I was looking at, for those of you who know me really well, you probably know this about me, that I don't sleep a lot, but I do sleep. I do sleep. For the record, I do sleep. I actually do like power naps. I like power naps so much that I'm so good at them now that I don't need like a timer on them or anything. I just literally just, like if it was 9:51, I could literally just lie down at 9:51 and I would just wake up 10 minutes later without any alarm or anything, just automatically, and I would feel so refreshed and fantastic. But I don't need a lot of sleep at nighttime. And so I was just curious and did some research as to how people sleep and why they sleep and the way they sleep as well. And I found out that there's all sorts of different positions that people sleep as well, and there are even some suggestions as to what those positions mean, right? So, for instance, and I wrote these down, one of them is called the sleepy soldier. And so if you're married or, to the person who's like the sleepy soldier, they sleep on their back. And that's actually a really great position to be in. They sleep on their back, and they're very uniform, and they have a lot of structure in their life. They're really precise. It says here that they're strong and they're silent, a lot of structure, really great people, but they sleep on their back, and they're called the sleepy soldier. Really, really great. There's also the baby. And the baby is the one that sleeps on its side. And they kind of curve just like a baby does. It's actually supposed to be really good for you to sleep on your side and to curve your spine, because it just allows your spine to relax a little bit as well, and you just kind of cocoon yourself up, and they are people of comfort, which is really fantastic, right? And then, I mean, there's lots of others, but I'm just going to go to the third one, which is moi. They are the skydivers. I know, it's fantastic, right? But just for the record, I'm not a skydiver, and I have no inclination to be a skydiver, and I'm absolutely petrified of heights. Don't do the bungee cord thing. Not into that. Neither skydiving with a parachute. No. So the skydiver, though, in the bed, they're the people like myself who sleep on our stomach. Horrible, horrible, not very good for you. But we sleep on our stomach. We raise one of our arms, up, and we put the other one underneath the pillow. And we take our pillows, and I'm very particular about my pillow. I like my pillow to be one of those pillows that I can kind of scrunch up to be about this big, so that I can kind of sleep really on my arm. I really don't really need a pillow, and I just kind of like sleep there. And then we just kind of like, we're skydiving, we're stretching out, and we put out one of our legs up in the recovery position, just in case, you never know. And that's how we sleep. And we are creative people. We're thinkers. We're thinking of strategies, ideas. We love that kind of stuff. We're doing all sorts of interesting things. But apparently, we also, fun risk takers, we also are about anxiety and control. At that point, I think that the whole study was kind of off skew and maybe not entirely accurate, and maybe just, what do they know? What do they know? But that's anyway, whole other subject altogether. But I do like being awake, and I find it really easy to be awake. In fact, I love most of my day to be awake because I've got so many things to do. I don't find it difficult to work. I'm constantly thinking of ideas to work and projects to do. I don't have difficulty creating a to-do list. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll write a to-do list. I'll create lots of to-do lists, and I write items in the to-do list just to check them off because they're just so much fun to get things done. I feel this way about if I'm working on a car. I love working on an engine. It's just brilliant. I just enjoy doing that. If I'm ironing or washing dishes, I'm fully awake to do that kind of stuff. If someone said to me, I need you, Japhet, to help me find a place to eat, I'm like, I'm your man. I'm fully awake. I can help you find a place in Newcastle, Australia. I can find a place in Munich, in Germany. I can find you a place in Eastbourne, in England. I have an address book of all sorts of little beautiful places. There was this one little Chinese restaurant that we went to, and we stayed there, a group of us, until I think it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I remember all the staff came out, and they were just, had finished the entire night, and they were just hanging out. We were hanging out, and we were just there laughing and talking about life and God and everything else going on, and they were just eating and doing their thing as well. Great life memories, and I have places like this all over the place. But if you ask me, Japhet, could you cook a 3-course meal? Would you like to go for a long walk, or maybe you'd like to train for a marathon? I'd be like, boy, I feel like a nap, or boy, maybe I feel really sleepy right now, or oh my goodness, I feel like a coma has just come over me, and I'm in a deep coma, and I am not awake. Are you with me now? Some things we are fully awake, and some things we nap, we sleep on, and some things we my goodness, we are like in a deep coma on, and we just nosedive so quickly. When I was a kid, I remember one of the houses we lived in, my bedroom had this bed that the head was just there where I could see the door of the bedroom, and I could see the banister rail right there, right? And in the summertime in England, the sun would set very, very late. But my parents were meticulous about bedtime, and so no matter what it was, no matter what season, spring, summer, winter, it was just, this is your bedtime, you're going to bed. And in the summertime, when the sun was like right out there, they'd say, well, Japhet, go to bed. So I'd go, trundle upstairs and I would go to bed, and I'd be lying there, and I'm thinking, oh, the sun's up, I should not be asleep. And I would just struggle going to sleep. It's just very difficult. The sun was just kind of saying, I should be up and playing or doing something, right? And so I would lie down there, and I would just look over to the side and see this banister rail. And, the banister rail, when you started to become a bit tired and sleepy, would kind of come to life. And as it came to life, I would just imagine all sorts of things with that banister rail. I'd be, oh my goodness, just not a fan of that at all, right? So I'd be, this is not good. So what I would do is I would cover myself up with the duvet, and it was hot. It was the summer, right? So I'd cover myself up with the duvet, and I'd just be like underneath there, really, really hot, and eventually the temperature would rise and just get so unbearable, and I'd just have to come up, get some air, and then I would lie down and look at that banister rail, and my imagination would go, and the banister rail would come to life, and I'd be like, oh no, and I'd cover myself again. You know what it was? It was just information. Data. My imagination was going somewhere else. I was imagining that the banister rail was something else, and I was running away from it as much as I could. How we take the data in is really important, and what we do with that data is really important as well, because it affects what we do when we decide whether we're awake with something or whether we want to engage with it. And then what we are going to do with it, whether we're going to stay awake or whether we're going to run away and be in a coma or asleep or in a nap. There are lots of great books that exist all over the place, and they have great stories and great characters. And I am a huge fan of the Bible, and I love the Bible because the Bible has the two great approaches inside it where, and I use this metaphor all the time, it's the Duplo and the Technic. And you see the car behind me, it's a beautiful Technic car, and the Technic is where there's just something kind of deeper inside. The Duplo is the big picture, so there's always a big picture in the story, but there's always a technical layer inside it. So there's always some kind of character inside the Bible that just oh, That's just great, and it teaches you a value that you think, oh, I should live by that. I should embrace that. And maybe there's something we could learn about what it means to be awake as compared to being in a nap or asleep or in a coma. And the character I wanted to kind of address and share with you is a guy called John. Well, there's lots of Johns, right? But this one's called John, qualified John the Baptist, right? So you just know that he is, unlike John, the gospel author, who was the one that Jesus loved, this is John the Baptist. And Matthew tells us a story about him. He kind of pulls the story together really well, and if you pull Luke together as well, you kind of get a great narrative about who this guy was. Well, he was awake. And where we get to in the story today, he's going to be in a deep coma. Right? But at first he was awake when he was in his womb, right? And his mother went to visit her cousin, and she had baby Jesus in her womb. I mean, John the Baptist knew at that point that he was awake. He leapt inside the womb. He just like, I know what my job is. I am the one who is to prepare the way. I'm going to declare that I know the one of Daniel chapter 7, the one of Isaiah. I'm going to tell everyone about him. I mean, he was fully awake, right? And so, of course, as he grew up and he became this incredible John the Baptist, he went all over the place, proclaiming and declaring that he knew that the Messiah was coming. And eventually that day arrived where Jesus arrived there on the riverbank, and John said, behold, the Lamb of God. I mean, he just was enthralled with excitement about this. He was fully awake. He was not napping. He was not sleeping. He was not in a coma. He was just like, he knew this was the one. And then he baptized him. Jesus began and went out and did his ministry, and John was very excited about this. And John continued telling people, he's the one. I'm not. He's the one. I'm less. He's great. He's amazing. He's the one. Follow him because he is the one. Right? Now we skip all the way over to Matthew chapter 11, and we get to this story where John is actually in prison. Not a good place to be for anyone, right? It's just tough. And he's in prison, and inside prison, he's feeling just low, as you would do. And he's low, and he's depressed, and he's just down. And he's in this kind of state, this sleep, this near coma. And this is what the text says. And I'm going to read this to you, and I want you to kind of follow along with me. So why don't you dive in the text with me, and I'll just slide it over here, and let's see this passage with me, right? Here's where it is. Now, when John had heard in prison about the deeds of the Christ, he sent word by his disciples and said to him, are you the one who is to come, or shall we look for another? My goodness, shall we look for another? Are you the one? I mean, that wasn't his question before, right? He was like, behold, the Lamb of God. Now he's like, are you the one? Are you really the one? Or should we start looking for another one? Because I just don't think, Jesus, you are the one anymore. I kind of just want to hide underneath this blanket right now. I don't want to see that. I feel like that banister rail, I don't know. Maybe that banister rail's becoming a monster. I don't know. You just don't feel like you are the one. Why don't you do what you're supposed to do? Right? I mean, John's thinking to himself, the Pharisees, they're the religious leaders right now in charge of all religious life. The Sadducees, my goodness, they're in charge of the temple. And Herod, I spoke up against Herod. Herod, the hedonist, man, he's still the king. This is not good. This is all wrong. And then Jesus, what did you do? You went out to Galilee and you just did a whole bunch of miracles. Why didn't you do any of the miracles in the city of Jerusalem? I mean, you just got in your little Uber and you traveled around and you did all these little insignificant miracles one-on-one with people. I mean, seriously, are you the one? I don't know if you've ever felt that way about something where you just like had a vision of what it should be, and then it turns out that it's not, and you're just kind of like you run away from it, and you panic over it, and you hide yourself from it. So you think it's a banister rail, right? but then something comes into your mind and you're like, oh no, it's not a banister, oh, it's a horrible monster, and you hide from it. You think it's a great marriage, but something comes to your mind and you're like, it's not. You think they're great kids, but something comes into the situation and you kind of like, you run away from it. Your relationships with your friends, something comes into it and you just think, it's not working out well. You're part of a church or a church plant and you're just like, it's just not going exactly as it's supposed to go. You understand the plans for the world and the future, and your understanding is just like, I just don't feel like things are fulfilling as they're supposed to be, and so I just kind of run away from it all and just hide myself from all that stuff, and just like, I just enter into a coma about this stuff and just nap and hide from all this stuff. You just feel like you're going to run away rather than be awake and engaged in this. I don't know. I'm pretty sure we all do, over work, over life, over friendships, over all sorts of things. It's just easier sometimes to just say, you know what, I feel like that's just complicated, or it's off, and I'm going to move away from that. And I don't know why, but I'm going to move away from it. And this is what happened to John the Baptist. He's just, Jesus, you're just not the Messiah I thought you were going to be. I really expected you by now to overthrown all political power and restored the kingdom of Israel. And I feel like it's just, you're kind of tepid. I don't understand. Are you really the one? Here I am rotting in prison. Are you really the one? So what does Jesus do? What does Jesus say? What would you say to somebody who you feel like they are feeling like they are really in a coma? And you know your friends, and you know your people, and you look at them and you're like, they used to be on fire. Oh man, they used to be awake. They used to be great at work. They used to be on that project, and now they're just demotivated. Do you just say, well, get on with it? Or do you do what Jesus did? So let's see what Jesus says here, right? Let's go back to the text. It says here, and Jesus answered and said, go and tell John what you hear and see. The blind receive their sight, and the lame walk, and lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear, and the dead are raised up, and the poor have good news preached to them. Oh man, that's good. He says, go and tell John what you hear and see. John, what did you hear? What did you hear? Tell him what he heard. The Sermon on the Mount. What did he hear? I have preached deep things to you, John. And these deep things, you don't understand them just yet, but let them soak in, and you'll understand how complex they are, and what kind of high calling I'm calling you to. I'm calling you to a new way of living, a new life, a new way to address humanity, a way that actually is from days gone in the past that we've lost our ways, and I'm trying to bring you back. And see, hear and see. Oh, yeah, I went all over the place, but I love these people. I made the lame walk. I made the blind see. I raised the people from dead. I mean, John, I'm doing things, but it may not be exactly as you think I should do it. But trust me, it is taking place. Those prophecies, and in fact, actually what Jesus was doing here, he was just giving reference to Isaiah 35, 25. I mean, he's giving deep prophetic utterances, echoes, sacred echoes back into John's mind. I mean, he's just trying to say to him, don't let everything just go away just yet. Just hang inside there with me, because there's some amazing things inside it that I think you need to just hang on to here. So then, just when you're thinking, John's like, well, is that all he's going to say? He drops this incredible sentence. It's just this one little line, and this is what he says, right? It says here, and blessed is the one who's not offended by me. Oh man, I love that. And blessed is the one who's not offended by me. What is he saying here? He's saying, look, I'm not going to say, blessed are you for not doubting. I'm not slapping you down. I'm not knocking you around here, saying, blessed are you, John, for not giving up. For not giving up. He actually speaks value into him while he's in a coma. You know, when people are sick in a coma, I mean really in a coma, they say that you're supposed to go by there and visit them and speak good words to them, because there's a great chance that they can hear, that they can still listen. And I don't know if you realize this, that even people, when they come towards the end of their life, one of the things that they have at the last moments that they may not be able to respond, but they can hear. That's why we stay by their bedside and we speak words of love, right? We speak words of love to those people because we want to be able to say to them, they're valuable. And we will remember them, and they're valuable. And this is what Jesus does right now. He looks at John, he can see John, and he says to him, blessed are you. The New Testament for Everyone actually puts it this way. It says, and God bless you if you're not upset by what I'm doing. Don't you like that sentence? And God bless you if you're not upset by what I'm doing. John, listen, I'm not the Messiah you thought I was going to be. But God bless you for not being upset for what I'm doing, because I'm doing something. I'm doing something, and it's going to change the world. In fact, I'm ushering in the kingdom of God. It is going to be a game changer. And you know, it's you, John the Baptist. I value you, and you can come and you can be awake again. You can come out of that coma. You can come out of that sleep. You can come out of that nap. You can be awake again. You can be strong. You can hold your head up high no matter what happens, because you know it isn't going to be good, but it's going to be amazing because I'm with you. And this is the thing, is that I think we can do the same. We can do the same. Now here's the interesting thing. Jesus continues the story, but he switches his gear right now, and he doesn't continue the story speaking to John as much as he starts speaking to the disciples, to the community around him, and to us today as well. It's pretty fantastic. He turns to the crowds around him and he starts saying, you know, what did you go out in the wilderness to see? He says, did you go to see a reed shaking in the wind? He's like, he's no reed, John the Baptist. He's like a red wood. He's strong. He's an oak. He's strong. He says, did you go out there to see somebody dressed in fine clothes? He's like, this guy is ready to do the hard work. And then he says, and this is where you get the Duplo moves away and he starts to kind of like peel away into the technique. It's pretty fantastic, right? This is where Jesus says, listen, John the Baptist, he wasn't just a prophet. He's more than a prophet, right? And everybody's like, whoa, really? He's like, wow, that's amazing. He says, yeah, because watch this. If you have somebody who is going to introduce a famous speaker, right? You want to bring the best person possible, the best host forward to introduce the speaker. You don't want to bring like somebody, or you want to bring somebody of worthy of note who's going to introduce somebody of worthy of note as well, right? Because that just kind of like brings the whole ante up, right? Just says, well, this is a really incredible thing. You bring like a famous person forward, and that person introduces somebody even more famous. So Jesus says, by the way, you know that guy John the Baptist, he's just not an ordinary prophet. He's an amazing prophet. He's not like an A-level prophet. He's an A-star. So everything he says is actually A-star, right? So then you're like, well, what did he say? He said, well, he announced the Messiah. Well, that's just not an ordinary Messiah. Like, you know, there were lots of Messiahs. They were like, look at that Messiah. He's come along and he's helped rescue a group of people. No, he's announcing the Messiah. You see what Jesus has done? He's proclaiming the gospel, the good news, the kingdom, that there is one true Messiah, the Daniel 7 prophecy, right? I mean, the Isaiah 35. I mean, he's just kind of like embedded it all inside there. The mighty one has arrived. I mean, he's just kind of like laying it all inside there, and he's just done it really just gently. He says, oh, you know, John the Baptist, he's no ordinary prophet. He's an amazing prophet. And he's there to prepare the way, and he did. And then he says this, truly I say to you, oh, actually, I should show you this because it's just fantastic. He says, truly I say to you, among those born of women, there has arisen no one greater than John the Baptist. And you're like, wow, yet the one who's least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. Do you see that? He's like, John the Baptist, no one ever greater than him. And yet, in the kingdom now, everyone is greater than him. That's us. Are we really awake? I mean, we're greater than John the Baptist. I don't know if we feel like we are living a life that is fully awake, or whether we feel that we're living kind of like a life that's more inclined to be in a coma. I know that you have people around you all the time that you look at them and you're like, is that person in a coma? Come on, you've got so much to offer. And you could go criticize them and tell them off and da-da-da, but do the Jesus way. Go speak value into them. Thank them. Oh my goodness. Lift them up. Congratulate them. Applaud them. Encourage them. Do that. And see them come out of their coma and become awake again. Oh, and live all that God has called them to be. Then they will be awake and their soul will sing, right? This is what we're called to be. Brad, a friend of mine, sent me a message just the other day. And when I say the other day, I mean, you don't know whether that was like, 10 years ago or 10 minutes ago. I mean, that's what we as pastors always say, just the other day, right? But it was just the other day. And it was just this beautiful reminder that we were together at this event. Rod, myself, a whole bunch of people, we were together at this event at Hillsong where the song Awake My Soul came out. And it was released, and I was like, yeah, it was just a fantastic song. And I wrote down some of the lyrics because the lyrics are fantastic. Awake my soul and sing. Sing his praise aloud. Sing his praise aloud. That's what we should be living. That's what our friends should be living. That's what people that you know and love, who all have so many gifts, should be living. Sing his praise aloud. That's my prayer, my wish for you, that you will sing his praise aloud and be awake. So go find that person, speak good values and love into them. May they be blessed like Jesus has blessed John the Baptist as well. God bless you and look after you.